Welcome to January 2025's housing market update for Wake County. I'm Dave Domingo from eXp Realty, and for today's video, we're going to be reviewing MLS data via the Fast Stats, which is going to talk about indicators like inventory, housing prices, liquidity, and affordability. I'm going to mostly focus on the triangle as a whole, and then break it down into Raleigh, Durham, and Cary. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off with the first one, new listings, we saw a 17.1% increase from 2023 to 2024. Now, this is a bit of an interesting story that without complete data, we're never going to truly know where these numbers are coming from. 2024 overall felt like the market was generally slowing down, which I think in certain ways is true. But in terms of new homes coming to market, this would point otherwise. Well, the reason why I say without full data is because there's also a ton of new construction that's occurring. This doesn't necessarily represent how many people are selling homes that have already been built. And therefore, you don't want to over extrapolate on this number. Just know that the housing market is growing within Raleigh. And sometimes I say Raleigh, I just mean the Greater Triangle area. And moving on to the next data point, closed sales, it's up 3.3%. And back to the point where data could be a little deceiving without the full picture. The triangle has been experiencing a lot of population growth from relocation, typically New York, New Jersey, Florida, and Texas, among other places. So without hard evidence, the way that I read this number is that this is a reflection of both the percent of new listings, new construction as well, with the ever-growing migration population coming to the triangle. Now, this next point is the most interesting to me, right? Because even I didn't know this until this report came out. But the median sales price had a 0.0% change. Now, this is not average sales price, which we could cover that now as well. That had a 2.4% increase. For those a little bit confused between median sales price and average sales price, this means that if you had 100 homes, the 50th home in 2024 sold for about $400,000. Not even about, because this is actual recorded data. And then in 2023, that also sold for $400,000. Now, the average sales price being a 2.4% increase, so this is from about $471K in 2023 to $483K in 2024, more or less falls in line with this trend of new construction or renovations. I can tell you for sure that the amount of luxury homes that I'm seeing pop up in Raleigh is going through the roof. It's pretty easy to find luxury homes being built here, and those luxury homes drag up the average. So this tells a story in itself. We know that there's a market for higher price point homes, but it also means that if you are looking for homes at the 400K price point or below, it is very feasible to find those as well. Condition, location, all of those sort of factors aside, it's just all I'm saying is that at 400K and under, you could find them. Next, total dollar volume in millions has an increase of 5.9%. So high volume market, not the most important metric here. Moving on, percent of original list price received is also a 0% change. So already we're starting to see indicators of the market generally flatlining. It doesn't mean it's going to continue to flatline, doesn't mean it's going to skyrocket or just crash. It just means that the average seller in the triangle is not getting the price that they originally hoped for. Now this next metric, percent of list price received, the key differentiator here is it doesn't say original list price, is 99.2%, which is a 0.2% decrease from 2023, more or less the same, which means that owners are dropping the original list price. After the list price drops a little bit, most of the homes are selling. Now, the most important thing to point out here is this is an average, right? There are still high performing homes where there's multiple offers over asking price. There are offers that go well below the list price. All right, so this is what sellers typically care about, but as a buyer, this is important for you to understand the potential strategy for placing an offer. The average days on market until the sale is 20 days in 2024, which is a 44.4% decrease from 2023, which was 36 days on market. This means that in 20 days, a home was under contract that ended up performing. So while homes are sitting for less than they were in 2023, 3 weeks of being a seller is actually a pretty uncomfortable amount of time. And from the buyer's perspective, it really beats the COVID era days on market of 1 to 3. Pair this with the previous metric we talked about over the course of those 3 weeks is typically when you see the price drop. All right, so this is the general health of the market metric now, which is housing affordability index. The goal here is to reach 100. If the number is 100, that means that the average price of a home compared to the average household income is at a healthy place and people could reasonably afford homes. Anything below that means there's an affordability issue. In 2024, we saw the housing affordability index at 80, which is a 3.6% decrease from the year prior. There are many ways to spin the most important takeaway from this, some of which includes greater speculation like a housing bubble and a crash that's impending. I'm not an economist. That's not my lane. Maybe you are, and you could provide a little bit more insight in the comments. One thing that anyone can implement that is within their control is if you're relocating to the triangle from out of state, or even if you're in the triangle and you're getting ready to buy a home, make sure you have a secure job before doing that. That's my personal recommendation. You get to choose your own order. It will make buying a home a little bit easier. But most importantly, you need to make sure you have some cushion room. This metric here can improve if the average household income increases to match the increasing prices of homes. But that's in the future and you can't control that. So just make sure you plan within your means and secure an income that's suitable for the home that you're buying, or just wait. The rest of the takeaways about the greater US economy and housing market, we'll see. None of us truly know. It's really the last interesting thing for the overall page is this is just a chart displaying the median sales price throughout the years, spanning all the way back to 2008, which of course, for those who are around, that was a housing market crash. As you can see, it took a little bit of time to recover, but then since about 2011, or you could argue 2012, the housing market has just gradually been improving. And this is consistent with what most people expect when it comes to home buying and home ownership. And then obviously COVID happened, housing prices skyrocketed, and those prices have not yet come down. But if you notice, let's take, for example, let's say 2015 to 2018. It took 3 years for the median sales price to bump up one of these brackets, 50K. It took another 3 years for that to bump up by 50K. And to be a little bit more specific, let's see, 50K divided by 3, which means year over year, the average increased median sales price is a little bit under 17K. So taking the median sales price in 2021, which was 30,000, following that same appreciation rate, if you were to span over 3 years, then the median sales price should be about 350K. What this means in a vacuum over the course of COVID, the rate of increase was effectively twice as fast as what it was pre-COVID. Now, some of this is inflation, how cheap it was to take out a loan during COVID, but also the increase in demand, because since then, a lot of big name companies have been moving the triangle to make it their headquarters, which leaves us with the overall question of, is this sort of flatline trend going to continue to stay flatlined by way of maintaining high interest rates on loans, making it a little bit more difficult to own, and therefore curbing inflation so that this natural progression of where we would have been had COVID bubble not occur, which if we follow this trend of appreciation would take us out all the way to 2027. So back to practical advice, right? Because none of us can control what the market's going to be doing. Buy within what budget makes sense for you from an affordability perspective, and perhaps live beneath your means. So then the last thing from a timeline perspective is if you're trying to decide if this is the right time to buy. Let's say you're looking to move to Raleigh and you're coming from New York City and you're not sold on Raleigh. If you're not sold on Raleigh, then I would highly recommend just rent for the first year at least. Decide whether or not this is a good place for you and whether or not you're going to be moving outside of Raleigh. Because the minimum amount of time you would generally want to own, based on my own extrapolation of the concrete data, would be at least until 2027. That doesn't apply to you and you plan on living here for a long time, then this general trend of appreciation is fairly reliable. This is a bit more extensive just because this is the January update, right? So I could have the luxury of analyzing the entire performance of the market in 2024. So I'm just going to be quick about these last little ones. So going in the Raleigh, I'm actually just going to focus on December's performance. So that way, if you're buying between now and March, you have a little bit more timely, relevant information. So median sales price, December 2024, was $479,990. Average sales price, $618,556. Percent of our original list price received is 97%. And the average days on market is 25. Cary, Apex, Morrisville, which are super popular suburbs. Median sales price of $605,000. Average sales price of $660,544. Percent of original list price received is 97.5%, with the days on market being 28. Then moving on to Durham, which is going to be our last one. December 2024, median sales price of $415,000. Average sales price $493,186. Percent of original list price received is 69.9%. And then we conclude with the average days on market as 27. All right, so that is it for our January of 2025 housing market update. My plan is to do at least one market update per month as this hard data becomes available to help buyers and sellers like you determine how they want to navigate their buying and selling journeys. If this was helpful for you or you want to see more of this, let me know in the comments. I do have one more Q&A plan for this month, as well as another neighborhood tour, location, TBD. So if you want to see those, be sure to subscribe. And with that, I appreciate it and I'll see you next time. Thanks.